right. Welcome back to Crestview Leads Podcast. I'm Tim Bolduck. I'm the city manager for the city of Crestview, and this is our podcast where I get an opportunity to talk to people in our community that have influenced me in some way, friends of mine, colleagues, contemporaries that I work with, and that are leaders in the community, and I get a chance to talk to them about leadership topics. And so today I've got with me Miss Kelly Jasen from United Way. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So Kelly and I are probably the fastest two talkers on the planet. So we're going to see what the word count will be for this next 30 minutes.
Love it. It's going to be high.
Yeah.
Higher than either of us can count.
That is true. That is probably true. So no, Kelly, I've been, Chance and I, when we sat down and started the idea for this podcast, we were really trying to figure out, who would we like to have on here. We wanted to, like I said at the beginning, talk to people that had influence on us. And your name came up a couple of different times. So I really appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us. And so you are, as I said earlier, you're with United Way, which you like to tell everybody is my favorite United Way charity. So.
Yeah, favorite. You said favorite charity that begins with United, right? And has an employee named Kelly. We'll take what we get, whatever we can get.
That's it. So I had a chance, a brief stint I got to spend on the board. But tell us a little bit about for the listeners and watchers out there that maybe don't know that much about United Way. Tell us a little bit about what you do. Well, actually, first tell us who you are, kind of how long you've been here, that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. I have been here for about 4.5 years now, which is insane how fast it's gone. I was trying to think on the drive over. I think that's about the longest tenure that I've had at a place of business in a really long time. So I love what I'm able to do, but I'm really proud to be the president and CEO of United Way Emerald Coast. I have just a strong background in nonprofit life. Right. I've been a case manager, kind of social worker, and then fell in love with United Way and flipping to the other side, ensuring that our nonprofits are healthy, our nonprofits are strong, that we're collaborating, and providing some really important resources to our community.
Yeah, so one of the things I found very interesting in my stint on United Way, which was probably the shortest stint of anybody you've ever had on your board, I did not get kicked off. No. We just
blinked.
Yeah. It was a quick deal. But one of the things that I found super interesting was how many different agencies you guys have the opportunity to engage with. And really that's what United Way is kind of about, right?
Yeah, I think so. Every United Way is independent and different. We're kind of like a franchise model where there are United Ways all over. So each one's going to be related to their local community and provide the services that they think that area needs. So we serve Okaloosa and Walton counties here, and we've definitely taken on the role of being that collaborator and that convener and really trying to enhance our nonprofits, which can be done sometimes with funding or by placing volunteers there or telling their story, just recognizing that we're stronger together. Right.
One of the things that I really liked was that, United Way, nonprofits are always, they're full of people with like these amazing hearts for the community and for the people they're serving. But sometimes they're not the best, maybe not the best business minded people or that's not the forefront of what they do. And so one of the things United Way does is come in and help them to organize and make sure they're organized to be a participant, right? That was one of the things that I remember.
Yeah. Each year we go through a vetting process, making sure that they're following just kind of the state, legal, federal guidelines that you should to be a nonprofit, that you appear to be, sound and stable. And sometimes there are hiccups, along the road. So who can we connect them with to get on the right track?
Right. And so you guys end up connecting people to resources, to need, and that's the whole deal. So very, very cool. Well, when I asked you about, coming on and talking about Crestview Leads, so we love the stuff United Way does, but I want to talk today a little bit about leadership. And so one of the things I've been able to do is get to know you as friends. I consider us to be friends over the last couple of years. And I watch you and the way you lead your team. And it was, I'm always impressed by how you're able to inspire them. And sometimes they move on to do different things. The way you handle that has been very cool. Watching you encourage these ladies that I've seen move on to other things. So, but what I asked you is what type of what do you think you'd like to talk about? And we got to talking about leadership with a sense of empathy.
Absolutely.
To which I said, I don't know nothing about it.
So let's learn.
Right. Since most people, including Chance, who's in here right now, thinks I'm mean most of the time. So what do you mean when you say leading with empathy? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's just really the ability to understand and to feel and to sense other people's people's emotions and to use that to build a strong relationship or a strong foundation,
nice.
And building that trust, which is really what I think leadership comes down to, that you have to trust one another and you have to be in their corner and on their side and supporting them the best that you can.
So how do you do you think that is something that you can learn as a leader? Can you, how would you grow? Because empathy seems like, it's feeling, right? Sure. So it's, I feel where you're at,
right?
In essence. So how would I learn that if I wanted to learn that?
I definitely think like most or many leadership skills, it's a muscle that you can, choose to continue developing.
I love that.
And I think that's, why I wanted to talk about it today is that I've had my struggles. I've had my moments where I was the leader that, I was working 60 hours, didn't understand why my teammates didn't want to work 60 hours, why they weren't as passionate and driven about everything that we were doing. And I really wasn't a boss that I would have wanted to work for.
Right.
And, coming here 4.5 years ago, I really tried to be intentional about what qualities I was bringing into this position.
I love that, yeah.
My first time to lead an organization. I had led teams before, but was really in that middle management, position. So this has been a little different. I think I don't always get it right.
Sure.
But I always hope that there's the next day, to get up and try again.
I love that. So there's this passage in the Bible that I was talking to somebody about this morning, and it talks about that the measuring stick that we use for others is the same one God uses on us. And so as we translate that into just regular life, I try to remind myself of that because I need that measuring stick to be super short or I'm going to be beat up by it, right? If I hold this high standard to everyone else and I'm unforgiving and not compassionate. And so, I joked at the beginning about it, but I think I think that's something I had to learn coming here too, right? So when you're in the role as is executive director, is that what the title? What's
President and CEO.
President and CEO, right? So you're it. You make the decisions. You answer to a board of 10 million people.
Absolutely.
We'll get back to that. There's too many people on that board, but anyway. So when you answer to a board, but beyond that, you got to make the decisions every day. It's so much easier to say what the boss should be doing when you don't have to reap the what happens when you actually do it that way. Right. And so I think, when I came here, I had to learn, some of that stuff too. There's nobody else that gets to, and so a lot of times they come up and people will say, well, you should do it this way. You should do it that way. But that's just because they don't have an understanding of it.
Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah. And so if we keep these really short sticks, for lack of or high expectations without any grace or forgiveness or whatever, we become somebody people don't want to follow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that both of us have had those moments, and we've talked about them before, where somebody sat you down,
yes,
and had one of those uncomfortable conversations. Right. I had one of those.
Tell us about that.
Oh goodness! Yeah. Well, several years ago, in that moment in that organization that I was working with, where I was working so hard and. I was really trying to care for my team. Again, being in middle management is always super fun because I'm like, I can't influence the whole organization.
Right.
But I can influence my team and I can protect my team and those that are reporting, directly to me. And just trying to be that filter, what do you share with others? How can you protect them? And so my team loved me. We were incredible. We were rocking and rolling. We were super supportive of one another, really be able to anticipate, the needs and the struggles and how to support. But we didn't have strong relationships with the other departments. And so, I had one of those, let's come to let's go to the principal's office and, basically told me, you can be as great as you want to be at your job, but if nobody likes working for you, you're not going to get very far.
That's awesome. That's all. So say that again. You can be
incredible at your job, but if nobody likes working for you, you're not going to get very far.
That's so good. That's so good. One of the things that we teach in our leadership class is that the only thing you absolutely have to be a leader is followers.
There you go.
And the difference between a leader and a supervisor or a leader and a manager, in the ill sense of those two terms, is that a leader is somebody who people choose to go with, right? Whereas supervisors or, if you're positionally gaining your authority, it's because I'm the boss, you're going to go where I tell you to go. When really what you want is people to choose to do that.
Absolutely.
A good friend of mine, and I've said it, I think, on the podcast before, but a good friend of mine defines leadership as, true leadership is when someone else chooses to let you take them where they should go. Right? And so cool. We should always, people should reach their full potential. And true leadership is letting them, when someone else says to you, hey, Tim, I'm going to trust you, or hey, Kelly, I'm going to trust you to take me where I can't take myself, but it's where I should end up.
Right.
And so that's so good. Today, the reason I'm in a ball cap and a T-shirt, we went and did our Crestview cleanup. We keep Crestview beautiful is what we actually call it. We do it once a year, and we go out to these code enforcement cases and people who are unable to clean their yards up themselves. We go and do that. So today I got to ride on a lawnmower and weed eat and all that good stuff. But what I was telling the team is, part of why there's a couple reasons we do it. We want to humanize ourselves to the public, but also we want we want to be able to see people in their space. Like, it gets easy to try to say that they should clean up or they should do whatever. But when I'm sitting across speaking to that lady today and I recognize that there's no way she could cut those trees we had to cut down or move all of those big things that we had to move today, she couldn't do that by herself.
Right.
And so that sense of empathy. So I do think it's a learned behavior. And so who else? So you said you had that experience at your last job. Is there somebody else like that was someone you looked up to that did that way that you want to try to emulate what they did?
Yeah, I think I've picked apart different pieces from prior leaders, either people that I've reported to or just community leaders that I respect in the community, trying to figure out what do I want to emulate from them, and then of course those that you maybe didn't have the best experience with. What do you want to do differently? Yeah,
exactly. Who do I not want to be?
Who do I, never want to be similar to. So, it's a prior supervisor. Actually, the reason that I went to go work for United Way was just somebody that was kind of similar to me, very loud, very silly, but also super compassionate.
Nice.
And believed in me way more than I ever believed in myself.
Yeah.
And when you have a leader like that, it makes going to work every day worth it.
Yeah. One of just real quick, one of the things I love about you, Kelly, is and I've never said this to you, but like when I see you with your team, I can't think of a single time where we've been for any expanded period of time together where you haven't been building up one of your team members. Like, I remember in particular we were working on the deal where is it an Alice Summit? Is that what we call it? Where you are
seeing what it's like to live in poverty or low to moderate income housing.
Low to moderate income housing. And before that, I don't know if you remember this conversation, but before that, I was having a conversation with you and Aubrey comes up. And you took like 5 minutes just telling me about how great she was in whatever it was she was doing. And I banked that because I was just thinking, she didn't necessarily know that was, and who knows, right? She might not even remember.
Right.
But I remembered that. I thought, man, that's a really cool way to gain the trust of your team because obviously you didn't make those things up. All the things you were saying were true, but I just love that. Yeah. And so
I think that's unique. And somebody, of course, said it way more eloquently than I will right now. But many years ago, another leader told me, when you get the kudos, when things go right, be that window, right? Pass it all through. It was the team. The team did this. So-and-so did it. And then when things go wrong, be that wall. And it stops with you and you accept, the responsibility for whatever went wrong. And that's something that stands out.
So good. So we've talked about empathy. What are some other things? I think we also talked about before this. How do you, because high energy all the time, like Kelly's high energy. I was thinking, how are we going to keep the volume right?
Trying really hard
between me, how loud I talk, and how are we going to keep the volume right? But so you're always high energy. Again, I remember you speaking into Aubrey's life that day. How do you keep yourself balanced, right? So one of the things we talked about, you and I've talked about, is like as leaders we have to put so much out. How do you keep yourself together, especially in the business you're in? Because a lot of it's how do you do that?
Absolutely. Compassion fatigue is real.
Compassion fatigue.
Yeah, taking care of others and not taking care of yourself, and feeling the struggles of the clients that we're working with each and every day. It can be overwhelming. It can absolutely lead to burnout, and I have been burnt out, a time or two in my experience. And so it's again something that you have to be intentional about. Yesterday, I was not feeling it. I left. I had to check out of the office. I was like, I am going home. I know we have 2 huge events this week. Good luck, team. I trust you. I think you've got it. But I need to go. I wasn't in the right place to be productive in that day. And so I think that's 2 things. That's modeling behavior, letting my team know it's okay to take care of yourself and to put yourself first. Sometimes, right?
Within reason,
right? Absolutely, but it's just you can't pour from an empty cup. You always have to remind yourself and take care of yourself too. And that's really been another thing that I brought to this United Way, was trying to be thoughtful about our mental health. And this was then COVID hit, and then all these other things happened, and it just showed me how important it is to care for yourself, care for your team so that you can take care of, the clients or customers or whoever it might be that you're dealing with each and every day.
Yeah, I love that because, when I bring up and ask people, what do you want to talk about on the leadership podcast? No one ever, everybody wants to talk about these big, powerful, impactful things to others, but we don't necessarily talk about the things that we need. What's cool about this, the story or the explanation you just gave was like, there's two ways that day can go, right? We all have been in a situation where we just push through, and maybe we didn't even have to push through that day, but we're going to, do it. And so we push through, and then we treat people crappy.
Right.
And because
I was sitting there, in the meeting, like rolling my eyes, and I'm like, this is not the way that I want to come off. This is not. I'm not being supportive of my team right now.
So I love that you said modeling the behavior, right? And so we get ourselves, and I think modeling it. Sometimes we're modeling it by pushing ourselves and all that, but also acknowledging that, hey, you're not going to get the best of me today.
Right.
I had a situation of last week with the chief, police chief, and I had to him and I had a conversation, and I was frustrated about something related to budget, and he's completely not in the wrong, but I was already frustrated when I got in there. So next morning, I got up and on my way to work, I had to message him and say, "Hey, buddy, listen, I wasn't at my best yesterday," is what I said. But we do that. You've used the term trust a couple of times, and so I've probably mentioned this book in front of you, but we do a lot with the 5 dysfunctions of a team, Patrick Lencioni's book, and he talks about that layer of trust. And people think that that's like, I trust that Kelly's going to do what she says she's going to do. I do, right? There's that trust that exists, but also for our people, it's that trust that he uses. It's more about vulnerability.
There you go.
It's about that they can see that I'm going to fail and I'm going to make stupid. I'm going to put it in the ditch every day, and so. Then we're going to pull me out of the ditch, and we're going to continue to move forward. And when you're in the ditch, I'll pull you out too. And it's that vulnerability. So, how do you make sure that you continue to model that?
Yeah, that's so funny you mentioned that. Vulnerability was a word that kept creeping into my mind, as we've been speaking here. And I think it is owning up to your mistakes, letting your team know, like, I fail as well. I made a mistake. Thanks for trying. Here's what I learned. And we're going to do things differently, next time around. And it's enabling them that power to fail forward and to take those chances and to try to be innovative and to recognize we might not always get it right the first time around. And I think that's a unique role that a leader can truly play also, is like, I'm not going to remove every barrier and every obstacle and solve every problem for you.
For sure.
Because you definitely learn a little something from that failure as well. And I'm not going to make you, something blow up that's significant, but you think that's the best way to try it. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
I can tell you the oven's hot, but you're going to remember it when you touch it.
There you go.
Yeah. That's so good. So good. I always, with the team, I'm always super transparent about it, or try to be, because I want them to know, like, I want them to be transparent when they find themselves in the ditch and we need to be able to pull out, because otherwise if you just keep pressing through, you act like there's nothing's wrong. Everything I do is right. You're going to miss, first of all, the lesson that's in it, which is the most, probably the best part about it. But also you're not going to be able to course correct, and you're just going to keep heading down whatever path that is that got you in the situation that you're in today. Right. And so what, at United Way, you came in, new team to you. How is most of the team that was there when you came here, or is it a whole new team?
It is a whole new team today.
Yeah. So those are fun. So that, changing that process is fun. So how many people work there with you?
We have 4 full-timers and 5 part-timers right now.
Right. That's awesome. And so, when you go to, I always love to ask this question, so we're going to jump a little bit of subject because I love to ask this. As a leader, when you're picking the people that are on your team, what are some of the things that you do in that selection process? So Simon Sinek, I always am hard on him, but he makes this comment about how as employers that we should treat the hiring process like an adoption of a kid. And if you're going to do that, then you don't get to unadopt them afterwards. Now, Simon and I don't see eye to eye on most things, but and he could care less what I think, but there's some validity to that. So I always love to ask people that I get on here, when you got to put your team together, how do you pick? What are some of the things you look for when you're picking those people?
Yeah, I think just what stood out to them about our organization, nonprofit world is different. It's unique. It brings its own challenges.
Right.
So what is leading you here? Because if there's not some piece of your heart in this game, you are not going to last, and you are not going to get very far within it. So that's something that we try to pull out of the interview process. What stood out to you about this position or organization? But then it's, I've struggled, and you go through waves where you look around your team, and some people do. You look around your team, you're like, wow, you look a lot like me.
Right.
Not just diversity of, the physical, but also like you're thinking like me. Your past experiences are like mine. And I think when you're really striving to grow a team, you need to find that diversity, right? Look for the person that does not come from that same viewpoint that you do. They don't have those past experiences that you do, because they're going to bring that whole different lens to your work and to your organization. That's super valuable too.
Yeah, for sure. I for most of my career until recently, I didn't understand that either. And so I kept trying to surround myself with people that thought exactly like I did, charged as fast as I did all this stuff. Well, when we read another Lencioni book, but when we read The Working Genius, I started figuring out if everybody's like me, we're in trouble.
Right.
Because we're all going to get fired up about something, and we're going to make these decisions, and they're going to
Nobody's going to follow through.
And, it's exactly.
IG too.
Yeah.
I want to have the idea. I want to drop the idea to somebody else, and then I'm out.
That's right. But then they're just coming up with their own ideas and trying to convince me, and we're like this echo chamber of new things that never get done. And so, it's so good to understand yourself and then understand the team, because here's the other part about it too. Like the what we do every day gives us this access to people that helps us to be able to do what I believe to be the most important thing, which is to help people reach their full potential. So like the function part, you need to
I'll
connect.
Teach you that,
you got to connect resources to people, to need, to all of that stuff. But really, like for Kelly, there's, a lot of people, right? There's 28,000 people in Crestview.
Right.
So of those 28,000 people I get to pick from, I want to pick people that are going to be in the team that not only are going to understand the why of what we do and help us to move the goals forward, but also that have some space for me to help them grow and them to help me grow and that. And I think sometimes we look for like this technically the strongest technically sound person, and we miss how the fit of that equation works.
Right. And isn't that, I think, one of the most exciting parts of leadership is investing in your team and watching them like move up. I'm like, move on out of this organization, or let's grow, let's make up a position for you.
Right.
And if we can't, or when we can't do that anymore, like move on to something else. That's the next step in your life. I think that is so exciting and so fulfilling as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's to me, that's the measure.
Right.
Right. Who are, I tell people this too, you, at the end of what we do, at the end of this life, we want to be able to look back and say that our legacy lives on through what other people accomplish. Not even just functional stuff, but like, do they reach their full potential? Right. When I met them, where were they? And then when I no longer was around them, were they in a better place, or they chose to leave us? And that's why we celebrate them when they come, and we celebrate them when they go. For the most part, we're celebrating them because they're going to a better place. Sometimes we're celebrating because it puts us in a better place.
There you go.
We won't talk about that side of the equation.
That's a whole different podcast episode.
We'll talk about that a different day. But it's so to me, it's so important. And I think, honestly, that's one of the reasons why we hit it off pretty quickly was I begin to, I get this phone call. Do you remember the first time we hung out?
Yeah, if you're going to talk about the food distribution, that's my memory.
Yeah. So,
of Tim driving the forklift around, like beep beep, get out of the way. It was COVID trying to pump out 10,000 pounds of food every weekend for months. And you being in it with your team is what stood out to me. That was what I loved. And maybe you were doing it because you just wanted to avoid people.
You mean on the forklift? Put
me on the forklift, I'll drive around.
Could be.
I was like, wow, like he is right in this with his team, and I haven't seen that from a city manager in the past. And I thought that was so cool that you were right there alongside.
It was a forklift. I wanted to have fun.
I see.
Yeah. No, I do think it's super important. Today, I told you today we were just doing some weed eating and stuff like that. And you can stand out there and hand out drinks, but honestly, how do we we can't feel the same things they're feeling if we're not experiencing the same things they're experiencing. You know, I can tell you, I can paint a picture of a beautiful sunset, but it will never compare to experiencing that sunset. And the same thing is true when you help somebody.
Right.
You know, we can shoot videos of the people we helped or were able to transport that food to during that food drive in COVID. But nothing beats sticking your hand in the window and handing that family, groceries when none of us knew where groceries were going to come from at that time. It was
scary.
It was super scary. And we're all around there in our masks and all that good fun nonsense. But then we had coffee to talk about United Way. And do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I heard that you had done a strategic plan for somebody else, and we needed a strategic plan because we didn't have one.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I got this crazy idea, Tim. You want to help us out? And you referenced, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which I still am on chapter 2 of. So I can't wait to find out what the rest of it's
right.
4 years later.
It's awesome. It's getting past chapter 1 is the tough part.
Yeah.
Getting over the trust. Yeah.
Right. But you were vulnerable with me, telling me, a story about, one of those, again, hard conversations that somebody had with you. And I thought that was really cool, again, for you to share that and to be so open about it.
Yeah, that's where it is. And then we ended up doing strategic planning together, and then we hung out. I wrote on the board for a little while, and we've done all kinds of fun stuff together. It's so cool. So, like right now, what is something that you're working on to grow yourself? Is there something in particular, as far as like, are you reading any books? Are you hooked on any podcasts other than this one?
And
or yours.
Ours.
So yours. Tell us about yours.
Coast. Right. Yeah, we have a podcast as well, just bringing in some community leaders. Right. We'll have you on in the future, or our partners or our volunteers, just talking about the work of United Way and how anybody can get involved with it. It's been super fun as well. So yeah, I'm definitely a podcast fan. I don't read a lot of books,
right?
But when something gets recommended, I usually look for where's the 20-minute podcast recap where they interview the author and give me the highlights, so and I'll listen to those all day long.
That is so good. Yeah, that's funny. And I'm an Audible guy. When I talk about reading books, I'm not the guy with the highlights at the house. Right. I'm listening to it while I'm mowing the yard and whatever else. Yeah, no. So you said you like podcasts. So what are you into as far as what kind of stuff are you listening to? Just anything good? Anything we can recommend?
I'll have to go through the list and think about that one a little bit. I'll put it in all the comments when this gets posted about what I'm recommending. Because right now it's just been a lot of murder podcasts.
Yeah, don't do that.
Which you need for your mental health, right?
Hey,
get out of what I'm seeing each and every day. Be like, there are people wild.
So I go home and my wife is watching those 2020 documentaries all the time. I'm so worried. I'm hiding shovels and stuff. I don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, my partner of
chances
whatever,
we're stressing out right now because I'm talking about it. That's so good.
No, I've got some Radical Candor right now. I can't think of the author of that one, but that was recommended, and she's saying some cool stuff too. So I like that one a lot.
So do you guys do you got your team? You said 4 or 5 people
full time.
Full time, yep. And then but from a volunteer perspective, you guys will have 50 people, 100 people working this week on the what's it called?
Day of Caring.
Day of Caring.
2,000, I think people. No, 2,000.
Wow.
That can't be right. It's 2,000 hours.
It's at least 20.
It's at least 1 million.
We got 1 million people out this week. No, so
2,000 hours of service are what we're projecting on Thursday. So hundreds of people across the 2 counties that we serve going to be volunteering.
Very, very cool. So is there anything that you're working on with your team right now that you guys are you doing the podcast? Are you doing any kind of training or anything like that? Do you guys get a chance to go out and do training?
Yeah, we have a professional development kind of stipend for each of our teammates. So all of them kind of choose with their supervisor in what areas do they want to grow, and they focus on those. And
a couple of them, I think, went to this great leadership class the other day.
I heard something about it.
I don't know. Some clown was teaching it over at the Crestview Chamber.
I don't know who let him in. Right.
No, it's good.
No,
stuff.
we're anytime we see you leading something, I always try to send a teammate or multiple, because I think that you are fun, you're energetic, you're going to capture their attention, but you're also going to share some really great nuggets hidden in between everything else that you say.
Mixed in some nonsense most of the time. All right, so we're about to run out of time. I really appreciate you coming. But tell me, so if you had one piece of advice that you could give an up-and-coming leader, something that they should focus on as they try to grow, what would that piece of advice be?
I think it is taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others, and really investing in your team and getting to know them, getting to know what makes them tick, giving them the time that they need with you, and just being their champion. That's your role as a leader, right? Is to invest in your people and to make sure that they're accomplishing all that they can.
That's awesome. Very, very good. Well, again, I appreciate you coming out. Had a good time as always. I look forward to getting to come hang out with you guys on your podcast. Where can they listen to yours at?
All the same platforms, any of them, Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Good stuff. And then it's also, you put the video up on Facebook. Sure. It's on YouTube. The video's on YouTube. So very, very cool. And again, we appreciate you all that are paying attention to our Crestview Leads podcast. We just love this opportunity to sit down with great leaders in our community and kind of share the things that we've learned. Kelly and I, with our 2 million words, we managed to get in
a new record.
Yeah. So anyway, keep listening. You can find us on all the different major podcast platforms, also YouTube, and we'll post it up on Facebook. So thanks again. Have a great day.